to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We will be seated and you're welcome to fly it into the services. The first thing on the agenda is public comment. I saw nobody's time list. So, public comment. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. Now, first, we're going to start with the town council meeting for the minutes of July 9th.
Anybody speak to that?
Second.
Your motion by Ms. Garman to accept it. Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Yes, I vote yes.
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 And then the special minutes for July 16th for the special meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve, Mr. Massey seconds it. I vote yes.
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 All in favor. Okay, next for reading of correspondence.
This is the correspondence that's dropped in the outside mailbox. My name and Matthew put on it, read it all this public meeting. It is extremely short compared to the last one, so we're going to try and go through this real quick. I would say that if we start getting these really, really long public correspondence, we're going to have to either just post those online because of the amount of time it takes to get through some of this stuff, and we have to pay our attorney, we have to pay our chief, we have to pay all our, like, I will address it, I will say who it's from, but we will probably start posting these if it's more than one page, right to the public social media, that way it can be addressed. If I think I can get through at a timely manner, or if any of us think through, if it's trusted, whoever can get through at a timely manner, we'll go ahead and read them. I think that's fair because it's your taxpayer money that pays these people, and I don't want to waste your money. But I do want you to see all of these. So, Ms. Todd, we can be able to post these online?
Sure.
Is that fair?
Yeah, as long as you guys
I
are.
think it's, yeah, if it gets too much, we're just taking up time for the council meeting, so.
And this is a single page, you know, keep your thoughts concise, we want to hear them, I want to read them. Anything over like a page, page and a half, I'll address it, I'll hit the bullet points, and then we'll just post it online. So.
And one other thing, just as a reminder, if it's correspondence related to any public hearing or a zoning matter, those should not be read because they should be part of the public record for the zoning matter. So, just so you remember, if any of you were to receive something like that, make sure that you do that under the public hearing part for that zoning matter. The other thing is, if you were to ever receive correspondence on something that's a pending matter where the record's closed, that should not be considered and is outside the record. So, just a little, we don't get that very often, but if you had a matter and you tabled it, that's sometimes the reason you have to be careful.
Mr. Mayor, if we reorganize that and bring that up later on, we have a full docket, we can proceed with it. We have to bring that up later on.
I don't have an issue with that. I don't know if we can do that towards the end of it, that's fine.
We'll revisit them.
Thank you, sir.
We will move that to after council members' comments. With that being moved, the next on the agenda is our police reports.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of council. You received my written report. In the written report is the police department's financial up-to-dates that have all been reconciled all the way through July. If anyone has any questions about those, I can answer them now. I don't know if you guys had enough time to review everything. All looks good, very good. All right, my first verbal report, the first topic obviously is K-9. This has kind of been an ongoing program since April. I provided everybody with a little over synopsis tonight. I'll just read over it for the record. Some things were brought to my attention as well as my officer's attention without my knowledge, so I wanted to address those things tonight. A police K-9 unit in the town of Greenwood will be utilized to enhance public safety, improve operational efficiency, and strengthen community policing efforts. A police canine allows for critical capabilities in areas such as narcotics detection, suspect tracking, search and rescue operations, and officer protection. Capabilities that are currently limited or unavailable within our town's resources. Given the rise in drug-related activity and increasing need for rapid response tools in rural and small-town policing, a canine would serve as a force multiplier, improving officer safety and effectiveness while supporting interagency operations with surrounding jurisdictions. Our town could utilize a canine not only for narcotics detection and community policing, but in an area where lots of families live, a canine could be utilized to track down a missing child or an individual with mental health disabilities. A person's scent is only in the air for most times up to 30 minutes, considered a fresh track, so having a canine on hand saves valuable minutes during the location of a missing or lost person. The goal is implementing a substantial and impactful canine program for the benefit of the Greenwoods residents and law enforcement personnel. So the cost analysis was provided to the council on July 9th of 2025 at the last council meeting. So there's a quick overview of everything for everyone to see that goes along with the cost analysis that was provided with at the last council meeting. The biggest thing to see here is that the cost incurred by the town would be approximately $2,687.88. Everything else would be covered by donations and grant funding. These costs include annual vet costs estimated at $1,187.88, and the insurance, which Town Manager Todd provided me with a verbal quote of approximately $1,500 annually. One of the other questions that was raised and posed was the training. Yes, this does come with training, obviously. A 12-week training course for the handler and canine to be certified for deployment and ready to serve the community effectively. Training will be provided by the Delaware State Police at no cost to the town. There were some questions posed to one of my officers in reference to our vehicles, which in the future, if you guys have questions about the program, me as the chief of police overseeing the program, overseeing the department, please refer your questions to me and don't put my officers in the middle of it. I'm kind of the head of the department. I'd like for my program to be voiced by me. With that being said, there have been some questions about the equipment or setup would be needed in the assigned vehicle to be utilized as a canine vehicle, specifically regarding the use of a full rear cage or kennel insert for the dog. To clarify, direction was obtained to get guidance through other police agencies who have existing and established canine programs. It was confirmed that the configuration of the canine vehicle is largely based on the vehicle model, manufacturer's availability for the specific vehicle models, handler's preference, and departmental operational needs. There is nothing improper or prohibited about using a full canine kennel insert in the rear of the canine vehicle. The vehicle setup the department has received a quote for is completely standard, safe, and operationally sound. It allows the canine and handler to perform patrol duties effectively, efficiently, without compromising either. Another question that was posed is, what benefit does a dog bring if you're only going to be out of town and not be in town? Well, to cover that, assisting other agencies, obviously we have a canine policy that will be instituted that will cover all the guidelines of the canine program itself, one of which is assisting other agencies. There's been some questions regarding how often a canine unit would be assisting other agencies. While mutual aid and interagency cooperation are valuable, the reality is that there are legal limitations on how and when a canine can be deployed, especially during traffic stops. Any mutual aid request will be carefully considered based on availability, legality, and the needs of our own town first. And finally, I keep hearing, what good does a dog do? What good does a dog bring? Well, when a canine assists in locating narcotics or proceeds from criminal activity, our department can be eligible to the federal or state seizure funds, including cash, vehicles, and property involved in drug-related crimes. These funds can be utilized for training, equipment, or even future programs. This also applies if the canine is deployed to assist other agencies, and if seizures are made, if seizures are made from the canine's efforts, our department could share in the federal or state seizure funds from the other agency. So hopefully that kind of clears up any questions, any misconceptions about the canine unit. I know this matter has been before the council since April. I'm just asking for the council to reconsider the program and give me some direction to either move forward with the program or put this thing on ice. It's kind of been sticking around I've been as prepared as I can be to provide the program to you. The steps have been taken, cost analysis have been completed. We're just ready to either move forward with it or be done with it.
I'm in agreement with you, Chief. I would actually like to make a motion to proceed with the K-9 unit as Chief sees fit, and also using the current dog that we have already, that's already been donated to us. Would be my first motion.
I have some questions, if you don't mind, Chief. So is it, we get a percentage of money from the seizures, or we get money from the, is there a certain percentage we get, or how does that work?
I mean, that's all depending on if it's federal, if it's state, however it's seized. Yes, but we do, as I stated, we do receive shares.
Okay. You had previously stated that there is no contract for the officer and the dog, it's just the officer and the dog, right? To know, like, what I had brought up last time about the training, I'm just trying to clarify, like, if she chooses to leave at some point, she can, and typically the dog would go with her, correct?
Right, she's a post-certified officer at this point. She has 4 years. There's no state statute that mandates she stay anywhere.
Okay.
A private contract, no other police agency that I know of in the state has them. I reached out to multiple agencies to gather, guidance on that. They don't have contracts for their canine officers.
Okay, the vehicle we outfit for this, I went through the binder, I actually brought it back with me, so I wouldn't forget anything that you guys gave me. It's very good information. I see you've got a lot of this stuff. You've got grants from, Tractor Supplies this, and you got a grant for this, and like, you guys have covered a lot of the costs of the grants. We all, three of us, worked at the Kiwanis Club with you. How well did we do with fundraising for that, and is that going to be able to be something that will negate the cost of this program?
So, I mean, the fundraiser's base is to have a surplus, right? To cover any cost that might be unexpected. Let's say unexpected vet bills. We want to have a surplus to cover that, so it doesn't come back on the taxpayers. So the fundraiser's main focus is to always have that rainy day fund for the program. The exact numbers from Kiwanis I have not received yet. We're still waiting to get the final number from them from those fundraising efforts. So.
Okay, I'd be curious. You know what I mean? I thought we all did really well. They sold quite a bit that day. So if the vehicle, say something were to happen, Corporal Tucker leaves, are we stuck with that vehicle? Can we sell that vehicle with the equipment? Like, how does that work?
I mean, you can sell any vehicle. Most police vehicles that we sell out are stripped. We're going to strip them anyway. They're not going to go with any equipment in them because most of the time we're not going to sell them to another agency. I won't. What I would do is send them to sale, where they would be stripped.
So, like, we wouldn't be stuck with that vehicle for any amount of time. Though, like if we couldn't get the program up and running, we'd be like, all right, we can cut this thing loose and grab another police vehicle.
I mean, yeah. I mean, typically you don't want to have to reutilize a canine vehicle because canines are messy. They're stingy.
That's kind of where I was leaning with it. Like, if something happens.
If worse comes to worse, you can always repurpose it.
Okay.
Obviously the car that we intend to use now is our spare vehicle. It doesn't have a cage in it, so this is basically upgrading that vehicle to fit the needs of the program itself. So if it needed to be repurposed at that point, we could obviously attempt to remove this stuff and take it back to a plain spare vehicle. But I mean, if the program 3 or 4 years from now dissolves, God forbid, we would have a vehicle, but more than likely by that time the vehicle is going to be, ready to be replaced anyway. Yeah.
And then, as far as, like I said, Mr. Crowley, you were saying, Ms. Todd got us the quote for the insurance of 1,500 years, roughly $125 a month-ish, something like that.
Yeah, Town Manager Todd would have to give you the details to it. She kind of updated me.
The email was in the packet last month. I don't know if you got a packet last month. It was in yours
I did not,
last
no.
month.
Yeah. My concern is, and I'm for the program, but my concern is, if something happens when we get stuck with a vehicle, can we unload it, or can we unload the equipment? Because that's just, like you said, canines can be messy, and we're going to be stuck with that vehicle. And the other one would be mainly the insurance end of it. As long as we carry insurance on that officer, because it is an officer at that point, you know what I mean? Kind of, sort
Well,
of.
just to clarify, we bounced around the idea. There's several agencies, larger agencies, that don't insure their canines. The canine is literally a tool on the police officer's belt, and it falls within the response to resistance policies, so it's covered. We're taking the extra step and the extra insurance benefits of purchasing insurance,
I
additional insurance.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that because, what if someone were at an event and like a special needs child or somebody bumps the dog, and you know what I mean? Anything can happen, an animal's an animal, you never know.
Well, again, other police departments are utilizing it as a tool. No
Okay.
different than an officer deploying their firearm, it's covered under the same response to resistance.
Look,
We're taking the extra steps to ensure that we're, doubling down and getting the insurance. If the insurance was, a crazy amount of money, we would have had to explore other options and probably went with what the other police agencies are doing. But with it being a reasonable amount of money, why not have the additional insurance?
I agree with you, and it gives the town and the police department protection with that insurance policy to make sure we are good, so. All right.
Any other questions?
I just have one question.
Mhm.
I was here in the nineties, we had the first dog, when my uncle had his dog, they outfitted the car. I helped them rip it out, put the cage in there for the dog. When you got a plan for when that car goes down, what are you gonna do with the dog? The dog has to stay home. She's scheduled to work. The dog's supposed to be with her. She does not have a vehicle for the dog to ride in.
I mean, that's simplistic. If the dog is sick, the dog doesn't come to work.
No, the dog won't.
Right,
sit in
no,
front of the
I
car.
understand. I'm giving you an example. If the dog is sick, that doesn't mean the handler's sick. The handler still comes to work. So if the canine car, for whatever reason, is taken out of service or, an unexpected issue with the canine car, then yeah, the canine's probably gonna have to be taken out of service until that vehicle's fixed. But that doesn't keep the handler from coming to work. She's not just a canine officer, she's a Greenwood police officer.
As long as we have that contingency there, because I know when the town people don't want the dog here. If it's here, she's here with it. If not, we have to back up and say, look, if this car's down, the dog can't be here.
Yeah, I mean, that's management 101, police department,
You know,
yeah.
there was a time where we needed the dog, then they ran back and had the dog in the POV.
Absolutely not. That would never happen. We would never utilize our personally owned vehicles to do anything police related. If the vehicle is non-accessible because it's out of service, the dog is out of service.
What about being, we have those trucks and there's the portable dog crates at home, they can put it in the truck and
I mean, that wouldn't be, in my opinion, that wouldn't be a feasible thing to do. I mean, the canine, that's why we're going with the canine insert we're going with. It's certified, it goes in the vehicle, the dog's safe, the dog's
once you
encompassed.
outfit that truck or vehicle that way, then she's the only one that vehicle will be assigned to can use.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Correct.
not-
No other officer can get in it and use it but her because it is a canine vehicle.
Well, yeah, I mean, if the dog's not there, if the vehicle needs to be taken for service or something, sure, someone can drive it. But if the vehicle's in service with the dog in service in the car, of course not. No one else would be allowed to drive the car.
Then you plan on putting a prisoner in another officer's vehicle, correct?
What do you mean?
She arrests somebody, she's not, obviously not gonna sit them in the front seat for her.
Sure she can. Why couldn't she?
Wait today's time is, you think?
Is there a
Yes,
policy
sir.
or procedure that prohibits that?
That's up to you guys, that's y'all's decision.
Yeah, I know, and
But-
there's not. So I'm just trying to formulate where we're going with all the what ifs.
I'm just asking questions, I see other agencies, K-9 doesn't transport, they have somebody else do it. But
Sure, I mean,
obviously-
Delaware State Police are running probably 12 to 13 people per shift, if I'm accurate. Smaller agencies like Smyrna are running 5 to 6. They have plenty of people to transport. We do not. If we have somebody available, we will. We'll eliminate that of her having to transport. If she's solo and there's nobody that can get to her and she has to transport, there's no policy prohibiting her from transporting someone in the front seat once they're secured in handcuffs.
Anybody else? Don, you have any questions?
Yeah, my only question is, can we vote on this tonight, Jamie?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't know, I think the chief has made it clear what he's looking for. He just wants to know, are we gonna continue moving forward with the program or not?
That's why I still like to make the
I'll
motion.
second the
Well, I think you can't make the motion.
I make a motion then for the chief of police of Greenwood to move forward with the canine program CC's fit with the money that we the town will back at. Including the existing dog we have.
I expect.
How do you vote, Ryan?
Yes.
I vote yes, Mr. Matthews.
Yes.
All in favor? I'd also like to make, can I just make another motion? I'd like to make the motion that, the chief of police, whoever paid for the vet bill for the canine unit, just reimburse that, they get out of pocket for the canine vet. And because it got thrown up into the air, the personnel of the police department had to actually pay for that themselves. I would make the motion to have the county.
You could ask for somebody to make, you can't make the
Make the motion yeah, why not, Mr. Mann? To, make the motion to, reimburse them for the money used for the vet bill.
I make a motion, well, first, do you still have the receipts?
Yes, I brought them, they're present. So just to clarify so everyone understands you know, we sent the dog for, it's fit for duty. The bill was received, we submitted the bill. The bill was brought before council, the initial vote was to not pay the bill, which the dog was due for its second round of shots, and when we went, they made us aware that the bill had not been paid. I did not want that to be a bad look on the Greenwood Police Department that we had delinquent bills, so I offered to pay for the bill, but Corporal Tucker actually ended up paying for the bill out of her own pocket. So that's what we're looking to have kind of, you know, reimbursed back to her for spending her money for a program that was supposed to be going forward. So that's just basically where we're at with it.
I make a motion that,
Hold on one second, is it one bill or two, so I know how much we get?
Yeah, so.
Just one?
Yeah, it's one bill.
And it's to her, the check?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I make a motion that the town reimburse the Greenwood officer or officers who paid out of pocket for the canine bill. And with that it be recorded duly and correctly for auditing reasons, since they'll be coming out of in cash or something like that.
You can use that out of the funds you got from the barbecue, can't you?
Well, I mean,
Or not?
that was the original plan. When we submitted the invoice, it was to be taken out of the donations that were made for the K-9 program. I just want to make sure there's no financial legalities with it now that it was paid for by an officer and now the town is reimbursing. Just want to make sure financially for audit purposes, that's not going to cause an issue.
There's actually a K-9 bank account. Is that what you want to pay it out of, or what do you want to pay it out of?
I would prefer to pay it out of that. Like that canine bank account for the canine program, so I mean.
Is
Where
that,
does the money come from that's in the canine bank account?
So all of that right now has been donations and fundraiser efforts. So again, that's the surplus that I'm talking about. We do fundraising efforts to ensure we have a rainy day fund.
How much is the bill?
The total bill was as you can see, it's a lot of paperwork for one program. $856.03. And I can provide the invoices to Town Manager Todd for payment.
so Mr. Nelson, did you want to amend your motion to say where you want it paid out of and everything?
Yeah, out of the canine fund.
And to Corporal Tucker?
Yes.
Correct.
Is it second?
Second.
Mr. Rowan, any vote?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
I vote yes. Mr. Nelson?
Yes. Yeah.
All in favor?
All right, so I guess that finally concludes the K-9 program. Thank goodness. Secondly, I have Energize Delaware program. We kind of discussed this at the last council meeting. I was tasked with finding the stipulations in reference to the application and/or the grant process. Obviously, this process had already been started prior to my appointment with the previous chief who had began the program, kind of fell by the wayside. Then Town Manager Todd and at the time Sergeant Thomas had basically refreshed this program, if you will. So now Lieutenant Thomas was tasked with getting this program done. The application has been provided to you guys. I've highlighted the stuff that I notated in there. Ultimately, in my opinion, it's going to be up to you guys. You guys are the council. These vehicles were obtained for the town of Greenwood and the Greenwood Police Department. There were some previous stipulations, I guess, were made prior. All I can do is provide you with the information I have. Obviously, the police department has already moved forward. We're already starting to allocate FY26 grant funds to get that one vehicle outfitted fully, because it is going to be utilized as a full patrol vehicle, fully operational patrol vehicle. The other vehicle, obviously, I know it was, I believe it was Councilman Moran stated, what do we need so many vehicles for? If I'm correct in my recollection. And you're right, we have a lot of vehicles, we do. So I leave it up to the town council to read the stipulations and make your decisions based on what you see fit for the second electric vehicle. That's kind of where we stand with it.
I make a motion that we let the town use the second vehicle for purposes of going to meetings and so forth. But if the police department needs it, they get it prior to. Because that means if the town manager has to go to a meeting or somewhere, training or something, then they should be allowed to use that particular vehicle to go to a meeting somewhere.
They have some real good time accountable.
But, obviously if there's something major going on, the police department needs it. Priority.
Johnny, I hear what you're saying. I have concerns because the MOU specifically has language that it's for the police department, and then there's an email stating town staff can use it. An email does not override an MOU. And that's a concern to me, because then what does the actual grant then say that is tied to the MOU? Do you know, Chief?
Right, so we use the word grant. This is an Energize Delaware grant. The application is the stipulations, from what I'm understanding from reading all the details in this. So this application that you received with the highlights is the grant itself.
The MOU is the grant?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, it says that it can't be used.
From the things that I reviewed, and I highlighted for council, this was the original application that I believe was formulated by the previous chief and the previous chief's police administrator. They copied and pasted it to the new application, and those are the guidelines that were set forth.
Yeah, it says vehicles must be used by first responders. Per conversation with Amy Terry, the second F-150 will be switched and utilized for community policing, not the town manager or town staff. And that's what my concern was. Like, wait a minute. And again, this is follow-up email. But I'm uncomfortable. I agree with Donnie, like, in the theory of having a vehicle, because a long time ago I think we did that. I don't quite remember. So I'm open to that, but not when the language is this way.
So who do we need to contact to get clarification on this?
We have the same thing, that I can understand it, where this letter comes from, but I can understand where Mr. Nelson's coming from, because it's not in the actual stipulations of the guidelines that we have.
But the way I interpret it, those two individuals are part of this Energize Delaware, who did all this and came back and said that it can be used by the county.
They are, but from my understanding, for legal reasons, especially for grants, we have to follow what is on the application, not an email sent from.
Those are the people that are part of that grant process. So how are we to say no to that? I understand this, it was organized for the police department originally, but back then, even past Chief Thomas, was still, once I was still going to be utilized for meetings in the town to use, public events, if the police department needed it, then they were going to hop in it and go with it.
So I understand both. I understand that the town could definitely utilize one, but I also understand where Mr. Nelson's coming from, where if for some reason we do not follow the guidelines of the grant specifically, then we will then use that grant.
The only way to solve that really, Mr. Mayor, is have Lieutenant Thomas, who started this with the chief's permission, to reach out to those people and see.
We need to correct. Yes.
And see if it's eligible to do this before you move away. I mean, I don't know how many meetings or town staff actually goes to in a month, but that vehicle will be sitting there. The police department left their taking them home and using them, they just exist.
I understand completely. I would like, I mean, I see what makes sense for our town to have that for that exact reason, if we don't believe it's not. But again, I don't want to overstep the boundaries of the actual application to where now we're at fault for not following the guidelines of the grant that we actually signed up for.
Mr. Mayor, may I amend my motion?
Yes.
Amend my motion to let the town's people, the town staff, if they needed to use it, pending on getting clarification from whomever. If we get clarification, they said it can happen, so we don't have to come back again and,
Second.
I mean, if these folks, if the people, contract people say that these folks can take it, go to meetings and what have you, then great, that's what the motion is. If not, then not. It's just,
May I, so typically in a typical state or federal grant, to change things, it's called an amendment, right? You have to make an amendment to the grant. Exhibit A on the application, this verbiage was added in there. I can have, with the council's permission, have Lieutenant Thomas, since he's heading the program, back out to Energize Delaware, and see what we can do to have an amendment, just to have that one line of verbiage removed that's very specific, that says vehicles must be used by first responders. Per conversation with Amy Carey, the second F-150 will be switched and utilized for community policing, not the town manager. I can reach out specifically to, well, I'll have Lieutenant Thomas reach out to them specifically and see what we can do to have an amendment made to Exhibit A, and I believe it falls back under, further down in Exhibit A, under Section 2, the exact same verbiage is there as well. So to alleviate that, and that way there would be, and I think the solicitor would agree, to alleviate worrying about emails or verbal confirmations, we can do an amendment to the application.
I think it makes sense to do an amendment to the MOU because emails sometimes disappear.
that's why I'm motion to
What-
let them come back to the floor again. It seems like all this stuff keeps coming back.
Well, what my question, and I have not seen the MOU, is who is the party for the town that signs the MOU?
So this one was signed, I would have to pull the signature page. We had the signatures of Lieutenant Thomas as the representative from the police department. The Energize Delaware representative was the executive director, Drew Slater.
All right, so there was nobody from council that had to sign that document. If you spare me, I know you had a second to your motion, but perhaps you could do this as your motion, which would be a move to authorize Chief Walton to contact Energize Delaware and to see about amending the MOU and authorize Chief Walton to execute an amendment to that MOU that would allow for the vehicle to also be used by town staff and not exclusively by the town police officers. And that he can move forward with that and upon execution of that MOU by both Energize Delaware and by Chief Walton, the town can move forward with the use of the vehicle as presented.
Mike, you were sending your second?
Yes.
I'll send the motion.
I will make that motion, and Mr. Sharp, this, so fabulously put out there.
Just a nice and easy one to do. Second.
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. All in favor? Thank you, Mr. Sharp.
No, we're good. Thank you. Item D here, we have the police administrator position. Town council, with the assistance of the solicitor, I forget that we made a resolution. The police administrative position was reallocated back under my span of control. We have had that position vacant. I provided you guys with information that Town Manager Todd has provided me in reference to salaries. This is what a full-time PD admin salary would look like for a full year's salary. At a obviously full-time comes with benefits. These are the cost analysis. That cost analysis, as I stated in the last council meeting, I was going to bring this to your attention for you guys to make the decision, because ultimately, we're recreating this position from a part-time position, and I'm requesting a full-time position. That solely rests on your decision. The current budgeted salary amount for the part-time admin position was $20,000. The previous admin was working 20 hours a week. We budgeted already in the FY25 budget for $20,000. The year-to-date expenses paid to the previous employee was approximately $9,235, leaving an accessible balance of $10,764.95. The police department's budgeted salary amount was also for all 3 officers' positions. A portion of Corporal Tucker's annual salary was paid for by allocated grant funds in the amount of $27,902.12. This ultimately freed up the amount of $27,902.12 from the budgeted salary line item from the police department, now leaving accessible funds of $38,667.07 to the remainder of the 2025 budget. With that being said, a full-time position on an annual basis in those parameters in that matrix would be the cost. If we hired a full-time, by the time we posted, found a qualified candidate and hired them, we're probably looking already into November. So we would have to be able to substantiate and sustain that salary for those 2 months, which with $38,667.07, we would absolutely be able to do so. But the burden then comes back to the police department for future years of, is this something that the police department can sustain for a salary of a full-time employee? So from the lowest amount to the highest amount, this is something I would have to have council's approval for, obviously, in our budget, to say this position is an improved position for full-time, and we can sustain that. I think there's ways we can do it. I think it's very feasible, and I think it can be done. So between those matrices, just to give you guys an idea of the salaries and the possibilities of what the salaries could be, the range, which I like to be transparent and show you exactly what we're dealing with, and obviously what the taxpayers' money is going to. That's kind of where we're at. So at this time, I'm looking to get approval to hire a full-time position, and again, the reason why I expressed in the last meeting, a full-time candidate is going to come with somebody that's more experienced. We're going to get what we pay for. A part-time employee is going to be, a lesser hiring pool. We're looking for a better hiring pool with somebody that I don't have to spend as much time with to get them up and trained, minus getting them some certifications, and get my help in here that my department so desperately needs. The absence of my police administrator has tied me down in my admin duties tremendously. So that's kind of what I'm presenting to you guys. Obviously, when we're changing or creating a position, that needs to become before council. So
I make a motion to allow the chief to go ahead and hire a full-time admin, which is desperately needed. Again, we just recently went through that accreditation process, and they worked tirelessly and got it done. We get somebody in there full-time, that frees him up to be on the street during the day instead of in the office doing paperwork, which we need him out there policing and not in here pushing papers. And that admin would sufficiently do the job and free him up to go out there to do what he was hired to do.
I do have a question. You have a couple different hours. In your opinion, for the yearly salary, what do you think would be the best avenue on the yearly salary? So just as you said.
Well, obviously, town manager Todd assisted me in this. She's a financial guru. I am not. We want to make a window based on experience, right? We want to hire a candidate. If that candidate has, high levels of experience and needs little training, we want to pay them at the top. We want to be competitive. If our hiring pool is smaller, we're not getting very experienced, candidates, then obviously we can stay on the lower end of the spectrum. But we want to have a range. We want to have an experience range.
My concern is the funding, as everybody else's is. We haven't addressed the tax issue that we have yet, and we are going to be addressing it soon. I would feel more comfortable having this conversation about that as quick as possible after we address the tax issue, because at that point we'll know how much revenue the town can actually kick in toward this, and we can give you that range you're asking for. You see where I'm coming from with this?
What do we mean by revenue?
He asked for a range of salary. We need to know what our taxes are going to be this year, so we know how much the town's bringing in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you think?
Yeah. No, you're good. I would feel more comfortable having that conversation after that, and I would like to have that conversation very soon. I just want to give you that wide range, just like you said, you get what you pay for.
Right. I mean, I think everybody can see when I was hired, I want to grow the department, but I want to grow it, responsibly within the financial capabilities of the town.
Right.
It's what I'm here to do. Do I need an admin position? I've needed one since he left.
Yes.
I'm crushed. I've delegated work to my lieutenant that's tying him up. I'm taking over all the police admin's responsibilities onto myself. We're just getting bogged down. That position is an invaluable position. Like I can't replace that person.
Your hands are not.
Yeah. So
I think at this point, we need to allow Chief to look for a new full-time admin position. And then, because no matter what we are going to need, obviously, a full-time admin. It's gonna have to happen. And then, once we figure out that, then with the revenue coming in, that's a later down the line process. But first, Chief needs to first establish a new full-time admin position, so we can get the police department fully running up against the Chief can do work, and Chief can have somebody to help out on the admin side. So I would think that the first thing we should allow him to go look for a full-time admin position. That's my concern.
I second Councilman Ryan's motion.
And the thing is too, you've got to look at too, revenue will lose when he's sitting in the office.
Right.
So that's really about surplus and public safety, though.
Yes.
So,
And you do have a special meeting on the 27th for finances. You could discuss salary there if you want to let him go ahead and start the process to advertise, if you choose to do so.
You know what? This time, I think that's actually a great idea.
That way he can go ahead and get the process
And we can make
started.
the ball rolling. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So, we're interested in second, Mr. Nelson? I vote yes, Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Yes.
last thing, sorry, I was just writing my notes down. Item C, the extra duty police pay guidelines. As you can see in your packets that you were provided, was the old extra duty police pay guidelines that was issued by the last chief, Chief Philip Thomas. In the packets you received you will see my updated request. I just wanted to bring it to council because it is changing several things with pay. The biggest thing that I saw was our SEU pay was still listed at 45, where it was listed in our policies, and they've been being paid at a rate of 50, so that needed to be updated. That memorandum is no longer up to date. Highway safety, there were some things with it. I'm sure you can review it, that those parameters can't be met in the fashion they were being done, so I'm ensuring that we're meeting highway safety's requirements. And the other is just the extra duty assignments and the range and the scope over how we can work them and when they're worked. So all I'm asking for is that obviously we're changing money around. I want council to be aware of that. Just looking for council to vote yes or no on the approval of the new memorandum.
So move.
Yes.
I vote yes, Mr. Massey? Yes. All in favor?
Yes.
Who was the second on that?
Maria?
I'll make sure you get a copy of that,
Okay.
the memorandum.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next on the agenda, the town manager report.
I have no report this month because everything's kind of coming up down further in the agenda. So.
These old business, which we have none. Now, the new business, first one, we're going to discussion of the new town hall.
You guys have in your packets the plans for the new town hall. As you know, we obtained the grant money to build it. Roger and I met with the builder, went over the location options, and decided the best one is to put it parallel to this existing building. It would be a rancher style, 32 by 51 feet, with a porch on the front, which would face Market Street. At the Market Street entrance on the porch, there will be an ADA compliant handicap ramp with railings around the porch. There will be an additional entrance in the rear of the building that would go directly into the council room, which would seat approximately 50 people. The bathroom in the lobby would be handicap accessible as well. So people would come in the front door. There would be a workstation, a window at Carolyn's workstation. There would be extra supports put under 2 rooms to accommodate the weight of all the filing cabinets. And we would lose a few parking spaces, but we would reconfigure some of these to a different angle so that we could still use those. And if we need more parking out on the lot out back, I do have some money from a source that can use to pave that area should we need so. So, I'm not sure if you guys needed to vote. I mean, you voted to apply for the money, so I don't know if you just wanted to discuss. I'm not sure what you wanted to discuss.
That's a question. So this was a little bit, or is newer, coming back on. How much money did we get from the state?
300,000 for this project.
Okay, are there any terms with the money? Like it's for a town hall?
Yes, it was bond bill money,
Okay.
specific for a new town hall.
For a new town hall, not, retrofitting the existing building?
No, that would be something that Chief and I discussed today. We possibly could apply for a mini bond bill for funds for them to renovate this building, because they're going to need this entire building. I don't think you were on council during that time. Chief could explain that to you. That's the whole reason for the new town hall.
I can answer any questions you got, Councilman.
I do. Do we have to be that separate to be accredited, or for you to be accredited, I guess is what I'm asking. Or the follow-up question is, can the existing building be structured in such a way that it doesn't threaten the accreditation at all?
So obviously the biggest obstacle is access control and security. We have to ensure that the police department follows those standards to not only be accredited, but to fall within the state guidelines. What we have now is not acceptable. We have punch pads. We have no way to follow who's actually coming in and out. These things have to be documented. The easiest way is a key fob system, timestamps who's coming in and out of the building, which meets our access control policies. Obviously, this is an older building, especially our side. The biggest concern we're going to have is our holding facilities. They are not up to par. As I explained, to pass accreditation, we had to have an MOU signed with the Delaware State Police Troop 5 that if we're handling or processing more than one prisoner at a time, we have to go to their facilities because they meet accreditation standards. We won't for multiple people. So that's going to be a necessary need coming up very soon. That whole area is going to have to be renovated. The other issues that we have are how we bring prisoners in. Do we have ramps? Do we have this? Do we have that? We're not checking a lot of the boxes. Some of this is ADA requirements. Some of this is accreditation. Some of this is state standards. We're just running on a very old building. As far as the full separation, I mean, obviously, us handling, prisoners, things of that nature, people coming in to file complaints, we have a very small vestibule. We're dealing with them through a window. It's not the greatest idea for the public side, the town, the ladies being right here, basically in an open, static atmosphere where we're trying to conduct police business and they're trying to conduct town business. Kind of can be a recipe for disaster sometimes. So hopefully that answered the question.
It does, because one of my concerns is going to a whole new town hall, because we can save some existing parking if it's going to one parking. Now we have two buildings, and the one's newer. This whole, essentially, we'll have this old building that's going to need maintenance, upkeep, everything else for the police department. It needs retrofitted as well. That doesn't change. I've watched school district after school district. They quit tearing down their old schools, gutted them, retrofitted them, made them modern, without changing the footprint of the actual land. And it actually saved money in the long run. You can update older buildings. And I would hope, I'm kind of hoping that council think about this. Like, we're going to have now two buildings. Two that need, again, this one's still going to need updated, but just the holding cells alone, handicap ramps, any of that, all that stuff, doing it all on location, and we have the room in here. I think a good designer, we can keep the existing parking lot, but get both of what we want and still have a small footprint, probably for a very similar price.
So Mike, the 300, where did the 300,000 come from?
Bond bill.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of, did you go to somebody and say, well, I can get this for 300?
Yes, I came to council and told you, did you want me to apply for it? And you guys voted and said yes,
I mean,
and we
did you
applied.
go to a builder and say,
Oh, we had to have 3 bids to submit with the application.
well, who were they?
Derek Parker, JBS and Holly Tree Homes, I think, a guy that built a house over here on Dixie.
They were all in the.
We called Barrick, yeah. One was higher than 300, but Mr. Parker was actually the most reasonable. And we did have, was it GMB Architects that came?
Oh, from our side?
Yeah, to look at the building about renovation, wasn't that who it was?
Yeah, GMB.
Yeah,
was-
their main concern, I think, and Chief can tell me if this is right or not, because it was a bank, it's gonna be very hard to renovate, and I think you guys didn't need to move many walls or something.
The drawings and or I guess the plans that were provided by GMB was very little, interior movement. It was just updating the bone, I don't even want to say the bones of the structure because we're just going to be adding a couple walls. It's just expanding certain areas to fit the needs. Accreditation standards as we're moving forward, one of the things we need is a wellness room for the police officers. We need a fitness room for the police officers. These are all accreditation standards, and we are not in compliance. Like we're beg, borrowing, and stealing from other agencies like the fire department, the Delaware State Police, which I can't speak into the future, but at some point we're going to stop getting tolerance, and they're going to say you got to do this thing yourself to be a sustainable police department. So.
Well, I want to say the other issue that I believe you ran into was the electrical service, the heating system, and all that had to be separate from the town too, because of the positioning of that stuff, like the town couldn't have access to it.
Right.
So retrofitting the building, that was the biggest, like, we can't do it because you have to split two services and you spend just as much money splitting two services into one building.
Well, from what I guess our side has, for lack of a better term, it's a boiler, right?
Yes.
And it's a boiler.
Yep.
If that thing goes down, a police officer has to be here to get maintenance people in.
Yeah.
So, because no one can come on that side without a police escort. No one. So that's kind of what we're running into.
And same thing with the electric panel, they're all on that side, so there'd have to be a police escort to
There's
get to
no
it.
access to the town whatsoever, so at this point, we're back to the two building solution, which I think is best.
How much parking do we have in the back of the meeting room? I think that's another big concern, is we have a council, 50 people.
Service.
Yeah, that we paid the church parking lot, so they gave us access to use their parking.
Market Street.
I don't know an exact number, I don't know.
And it's where there's plenty of parking, they just have to walk.
And all the sidewalks are ADA compliant, so.
But we never fully explored, other than GMB doing a little bit of looking, actually, like a serious retrofit of the existing building.
All we have is the response from GMB. Basically, the plans laid out. That's it.
I would make a motion to move forward with what we're going with the separate building, because the chief needs to get his accreditation in full. If we're moving forward with the K-9 program, we're moving forward with all these other things, then we need to just move forward, especially if we're not eating the brunt of the bill for the new town hall. We have the funding, we have the property, the parking, as Mr. Moran said, we have the church, we have a little bit of backlog here. There's really, at this point, if we're going to spend money, we're going to spend money, but at least it's something better for the family. It's better for the PD, and it gives everybody peace of mind to know that they have what they need.
I have a question about, $300,000 is the building. Have we gotten any bids or any pricing for, you're talking about 50 chairs and any new stuff?
No, because you guys wanted to take a vote on it, so we haven't gotten any further
If
prices.
we could be willing.
Well, I mean, I know what the price of the building would be, so I know how much we would have left at this point.
So, this could be.
We would have approximately, I don't have a number in front, I think it's 48,000 left of that bill after just the building itself to use for whatever we need.
If we go with one contract.
And then we have realty transfer tax for money we could use if we have any overage, like, we can't tell how much the sewer hookup's gonna cost because you have to have the engineer draw it out and everything. But we haven't proceeded with anything until you guys decide.
I would make a motion to go ahead and proceed.
Yes, Mr. Donovan.
Take part.
You vote?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes.
we gotta do something on this.
If we don't, we're going to the police department.
I want that.
Over the accreditation part, they can't just take the accreditation away from them.
Next, legal counsel regarding employee handbook policies and procedures and employee. So I have come across a couple things in the town, especially with the employees handbooks, and also speaking with Mr. Sharp, the employee matters that have arisen, that we need a particular counsel to help us deal with those exact employee matters that Mr. Sharp is not very experienced to do. So I would suggest, I would like to make a motion to have Anthony Del Calo be established as our new employment attorney, basically for a year.
Absolutely not. May I address the council?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Anthony Del Colo. I'm with the law offices of Kerman. Just a little bit about myself. I actually understand intimately the nature of the pressures that you folks are dealing with because I've walked in similar shoes because I served as a state senator for 4 years from 16 to 20, and I had 2 small towns within my district, Newport and Ellesmere. So I have a sense of what you're looking at and how you're trying to navigate issues, just kind of sitting back there, listening to you reflect on these items. So I can say that the concept of public service is near and dear to my heart from that perspective and desiring to work for a client like a Delaware municipality. I grew up in Marshallton, and I've been practicing in Offutt for about 8 or 9 years now. I've been practicing as an attorney for coming up on 12 or 13. Time flies. In terms of the types of work that I do, I would say it really comes into 3 buckets. I do traditional, what they call bread and butter labor and employment law, things involving allegations of discrimination, what they call Title VII and the Delaware laws that govern the ways that different employers can interact with their employees is something that I spend a lot of time doing. I also do a good amount of what they call traditional labor law, so matters involving unions, collective bargaining agreements. And then I also do, aside from that, which is really not pertinent to what the mayor is referencing, and I'm familiar with contracts, construction law, and also regulatory law. So the sorts of things when the government says to a small business or a business of any size or an individual who has a license or wants to do something, like here's a regulation you have to follow, I get involved in a lot of those issues as well. I'm also proud to say that although I was in the Senate for a stint, I've continued to be committed to public service because I was asked to come back, and I now serve as the caucus attorney to the Senate Republican Caucus. So I'm involved in, advising them on legislation and amendments and, listening to references to the bond bill, the mini bond bill. Brought back good and bad memories being down there and dealing with things like that. And some years where it was good and there was a lot of money, and some years where it wasn't so good. So I think I'm well suited to assist the town of Greenwood because of that experience. In terms of the types of clients specifically that I've dealt with in the past, they range from small entities that are startups with a few employees all the way to entities that have operations in multiple countries and hundreds of employees all over the United States. I've represented fire companies with a variety of issues, including employment matters. I've done some work involving police forces and back in what used to be called Leoboard. They renamed it Contact, which I personally prefer Leoboard, but I guess I'm dating myself a little. So I've done disciplinary matters, grievance hearings, negotiated CBAs, labor arbitrations. I've been involved in administrative processes and a lot of administrative hearings in front of an entity called the Merit Employee Relations Board. So a lot of the traditional employment law and what I would call the intersection between labor law and being a public sector employer. It's almost like in Delaware in many places you have really a specific item going on. You're dealing with a public sector employer. It's public sector employment law. There are elements of stuff that apply from the private sector, but it's also more than that. So, I certainly appreciate the chance to come down and address you and hopefully assist the town if you vote to bring me in as your labor employment attorney. I'm happy to answer any questions, of course.
What do you charge per hour?
So I charge $4.50 an hour. I have an associate who's at $325. Those are my current rates, and you know they do go up every once in a while, but I'm pretty insistent on holding things firm when a client gets used to a rate. I'm a shareholder at my firm, so I've been known to make requests and say, look, you know, let's leave this rate in place and things like that. So that's not to be clear, it's not a decision that I have on my own, because I am part of a firm, and you know we have about 300 lawyers in 8 or 9 different states now. But you know, being in that role, I've been able to be successful in navigating clients who have budgetary concerns and you know smaller entities that hey, here's how much money we have to accomplish this goal.
Well, my thing is, until I saw the agenda, I didn't know that you were even gonna be here. It was the first I've known about it, and we had set a precedent when we retained Mr. Sharp earlier in the year that we run an ad typically for 30 days if we're looking for an attorney. So this one kind of struck me as a little off field. And I'm not, this is nothing against you, but I would like to run an ad for 30 days and see if anyone else applies for this position, and then after that, if no one else applies or no one else is better than you, then I'm more than happy to do your job, but that's how I feel about it. Precedent was set when we hired Mr. Sharp as our solicitor. I suggest we stick to the precedent.
Well, we run an ad for 30 days. Last time, Mr. Sharp's the only one even ever applied, so.
I agree, but precedent was set. I say we run the ad, if no one else applies, if no one else is any better, we're more than welcome to the job, as far as I'm concerned.
One of the things is we're trying to move forward with the employee handbooks, and there's 2 things here. We are going to, if that is a priority project, and I took it under the impression it is, we can save money by writing much of it ourselves, and then just have the attorney review and make suggestions and recommendations. But we're going to want that attorney. It's not going to be, you know, my take on it.
Mr. Moran, what are your thoughts?
Being in this spot before, and the previous employee had a conflict of interest that we knew nothing about, and in order to get our police chief here, I was given the task of scrambling to try to find an attorney to write up a contract so we could have a police chief. This gentleman sounds like he's got a wealth of knowledge and been other small entities that's kind of hurt my ears up. Union, because the county has union and I'm a part of it. So the negotiations and getting to the bottom and what's right for this and what's right for this and right for that, we need to have it in place because you're going to have questions that arise that needs to be addressed sooner than later. You don't want things to fester. If things jump up, then the mayor can reach out to the gentleman and say, we have this issue, how can we solve it? Because if not, then you're going to be in a situation where things drag out, then it's going to cost the taxpayers money, and then it's just going to keep on, and then we don't need that. We need to be able to advise the mayor to reach out, or the town manager, or the police chief, if they need to reach out to him and say, this is the situation we have, we need to address it, then they can reach out to us when they find out if it's needed, and then everybody's on the same page. One attorney, because Mr. Sharp already said he's not an employee, one attorney.
Correct.
So this gentleman is able to do it. He's gracious enough to come here, like Mr. Donovan said. We did almost 60 days from Mr. Sharp before a decision was made. Nobody else applied. I'm assuming the mayor did his due diligence when to bring this gentleman in.
Our firm's located in Wilmington. We have offices in Maryland and New Jersey as well. From, I would say from New York down to Georgia now, and then we also have a California office. But where I'm at is from Wilmington. But, you know, I drive down to Dover 3 times a week whenever they're in session. I'm there. I'm the only lawyer for that particular caucus. Some of the other caucuses have multiple. So I don't mind the drive. I actually feel the stress kind of leaving my body when I get south of the canal, you know, to be quite candid with you. So I don't mind taking a trip, and, you know, I try to make use of my time with phone calls and things like that. I try to be efficient, but yeah, that's where my offices are. I do try to be accessible, though, to the point of Councilman Moran. You know, when you've got an issue that pops up, you know, you receive a petition that demands a response right away. You know, you receive a development or whatever. You could have a filing with PERB, as an example. You could have a short turnaround matter. If somebody thinks a right's being violated and it needs like emergency response, sometimes I've been involved in what are called TROs, where you can have a filing that you have to jump on right away. And then sometimes, frankly, in terms of like understanding how to navigate an issue, you can have a problem that, you know, to your point, if you're not addressing it, or if you're just kind of sticking your head in the sand and not trying to get to the bottom of something, you know, that sort of space and time, in my experience, doing labor and employment matters is not always the best thing. You have to figure out the direction you're going to go in. So, you know, although I am in Wilmington, I try to make myself available. So I'm big on not being, you know, one of those absentee lawyers like, oh, well, Andy Delcola came down, we retained him, we never hear from him, where is he at, why can't we get a hold of this guy? That's not how I practice law.
Well, it's not particularly a matter of that, it's the fact that, you know, we run into a lot of issues of conflict of interest, and your location being that far north would probably be advantageous at that point, because
You make a good point.
you're that far north.
I mean, I'll tell you, you know, I was obviously discussed the concept of me coming here and doing this, so I preemptively ran Greenwood through my conflict test system. I'm only here because I don't have conflicts as far as that goes. You know, I don't know right now, the crystal ball couldn't tell you how a conflict would not arise, but, you know, the reality is that we can identify those things and navigate them, in my experience, efficiently. And because you're coming in with no conflict, one of the things that firms do, and I don't know what happened before, nor do I want to comment on that because I'm not entirely familiar with it. But, you know, if I have an existing client and I'm passionate about that client, and I have a few that are clients that, you know, make me want to come in and really do the work, and I like supporting people who serve the public. You know, against the state, I do a lot of employee work. So I work with a lot of employees directly who are employed with the state, so I have a good sense of what employees are thinking, and then I do, in the private sector, I do a lot of work for entities, so I have a sense, I'm sort of a blended practice. I know sometimes what management's thinking, I know sometimes what employees are thinking. But, you know, to your point there, because of the nature of that, I don't know, just thinking out loud, I don't know from that makeup of clients how conflict would arise with me personally. And then if like a lawyer wanted to join my firm or something, we would run a conflict check process, and if there were some representation they had which would be a problem, you know, then that's something that needs to be a discussion at times. You know, if you've got existing work, you've got an important matter, something that you can't really pivot away from because it was prejudice to the interest of the client, you know, I take those ethical considerations very seriously. So I can't speculate, nor do I want to speculate about what the future might hold as far as all that goes, but I know that there are systems in place. My firm has a group of people that all they do is advise on conflict checks and figure out what's going on, thankfully, because we're large enough and we have a fair amount of resources as far as that goes. So hopefully that's helpful.
I make a motion to hire Anthony Delcola as the town of Greenwood labor attorney.
Second.
Mr. Wilson first, Mr. Murray seconded, I say yes, Mr. Johnson.
No. We set a precedent, I'm sticking to it. I'm sorry, you seem like a wonderful gentleman, but no.
Mr. Conrad? Yes. Well, welcome to the town of Greenwood, sir.
I'm going to sit down now. It's when you're in court a lot, you're used to asking to be allowed to sit down.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make a stipulation that only yourself, the town manager, or the police chief contact the attorney.
Yes,
Unless you deem unavailable or you appoint somebody else to reach out on your behalf. That way we're not.
I would second that.
Yeah,
You said our mayor, chief, or the town manager, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, I would
Unless
second
he
that.
deems, needs somebody else to reach out on his behalf if he's unavailable.
So that was Mr. Moran's, and then Mr.
Okay.
Snyder seconded.
Are there, and I don't want to double dip, obviously, but do you need to be able to have contact with that?
It's gonna be the same way. It's, that way there's no confusion.
I would just suggest, Councilman, now that I'm officially.
Well, if he needs to reach out to him, then that's, those two attorneys gonna talk anyway, if there's an issue. I'm just saying from this standpoint,
Right.
attorney to attorney,
I would ask them just
they
let us
need
know.
to, but they will to let the proper people know. But that's way we're not having 4 different people reach out and you go $400 whatever dollars to $1,600, but you got 7 different people calling. And that way we know our top leaders are only one person.
And also, and one more stipulation, if there is communication between our two lawyers, to let, myself as town manager know that you guys are communicating.
Absolutely.
You will make that motion, so you just let me know that motion.
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Mr. Nelson, votes yes. I vote yes. Mr. Donovan? All right. On to the next, public hearing. First one is the application for conditional use from Jay and Kathy Emmington, property located on 12,400 Sussex Highway, section 530-10-00-44.00 for a daycare. Can you come to the podium?
I've got a question.
We're not talking about public hearing.
These folks came before us in a public hearing at the VFW, and the motion was made that if they did several things and went to the planning and zoning, they didn't have to come back to us.
That's
Is that
right.
my understanding?
That's right. The motion was conditioned on them getting site plan approval, which is actually, when you look at the zoning code, it is, for the conditional use, it says daycare centers with site plan approval. Council, when you approved the conditional use last year, required as a condition that they attain site plan approval. My understanding that that hasn't happened yet. I think that came after,
Oh, yeah.
there's a 1-year period, and that
Oh, I'm sorry.
that did not happen within the 1 year. So because that had expired, that's why we're back here for, as I understand it, largely the same petition or application, but certainly we're from the applicant on that to determine if there's any differences. I'm sure you all may have questions, and I will remind the mayor and council, this is a public hearing, so we will be entertaining public comment on these, on this application as well. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Mother.
Sorry.
That's fine. We're Jay and Kathy Embleton, the owners of the daycare on 12400 Sussex Highway. We're just here to ask for continuation of our conditional use as a daycare. Just continue using it as it is, as it's been since we've owned it in 2021, I think. So that's what, and we've gotten a survey site work just recently, 2 months ago. I think it's, and that's why we're here, it's conditional use again. for that.
If I may, I might be able to shortcut some of the questions, just so that we have it in the record as far as similar things to what we had last year. I understand this property is in a highway commercial, is that right?
Correct.
And there was a prior conditional use that was approved in 2000 for 5 years, is that correct?
I believe so.
Your hours of operation, are they 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. still?
Yeah, approximately.
Monday through Friday, or do you have weekend hours? How many employees do you have?
We don't own it, I mean, we own it, but we don't run the daycare,
Sure.
so I do not know how many employees they have.
How many kids are served at the daycare
You know
typically?
how many, 20?
20 approximately.
Do you know if the operator of the facility has all their state agency approvals? Have there been any complaints that you received since you were last before the council? Have you had any discussions with your neighbors about the usage?
Usage of the daycare?
Mhm.
No,
Have you had any complaints? Or I think you said you had no complaints.
no.
Or do you have anything that screens the use from neighboring properties? Trees, fences?
There's a fence, I guess, the one to the one side.
What's around you, just so that we have that in the record? What are your neighboring properties? Where are they used for?
Well, to the south is Emma's Restaurant.
And to the north is, Alton.
Alton property, and then behind is Mr. Williams, Michael Williams, and his property behind.
All right, one question I do have is, last time the council approved it with the condition, express condition that the site plan approval would be, you would go through the site plan. So the use was conditioned on that happening. Is there a reason why that site plan application was not filed within the time frame needed?
Not really, no. I don't think, we just knew we had the old one, and I didn't know, I don't know that it's changed anything, but no, we don't
Is
have
it
an excuse.
oversight?
We don't have an excuse for why we didn't.
All right, but you're prepared, if the council were to approve this, to submit a site plan application to the commission for their approval, is that correct?
It's already been
It has,
been-
all right,
yeah.
all right. But it was after the 1 year.
Correct,
All right,
yes.
very good. Those are all the questions I have. I don't know if that's spurs any additional questions from council.
Any other questions? Tom, you have any questions? Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Whoa. You gotta see if there's any public comment.
Oh, yeah, we do have a-
Anybody in the public wish to speak for or against this application? Hearing none, you can close the room.
Okay. Okay, we have no public comment.
Motion to approve.
Is there a motion to approve?
If I may, I have a motion that we did the last time, and it'd probably be appropriate to have the reasons for it, if I may. Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the conditional use application for Jay and Kathy Hamilton for a daycare based upon the record made at the public hearing, the recommendation from the planning commission for the following reasons. The applicant seeks a conditional use permit to allow for a daycare center. The property has been used for a daycare center since 2000. They're residential properties in the area, the use is compatible with those uses. The use is consistent with the town's comprehensive plan. There's sufficient area to screen the use from other uses. The use will not significantly detract from the permitted uses in the district. No parties appeared in opposition to the application, and the applicants have received site plan approval from the planning commission.
Mr. Short would be out of line to say if they sell the property that the new owner would have to come in for a new conditional use and go through the same process.
Typically, conditional uses run with the land, so it'd be a land use issue at that time. If you wanted to put conditions on the type of use, perhaps the number of children that are there, or the hours of operation, those things, those could all be reasonable conditions that you could put on, and if a new owner came in, they would have to abide by those, and if they fail to do so, they have to, they'd be in violation, and they'd have to come back for a conditional use or amendment to it. But typically, these do run with the land and not usually personal to the applicant. Because it sounds like these folks just own it and lease it out. I don't know the terms of that lease. The buyer, if they were to sell it tomorrow, the buyer, in theory, would be purchasing it subject to that lease. If that's a long-term lease, it may still be a tenant. If it's a month-to-month lease, that tenant may go and you may have somebody else. That's the answer out of the question.
That's just question, so.
So where do you, can you grab a second for that motion?
I made the motion.
Make the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Nelson, second. Do I vote yes, Mr. Massey?
Yes.
Gotcha. All in favor? Approval?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, next, public hear a resolution to amend the growth and annexation map of the comprehensive plan from highway to commercial to residential plan community. The property identified as Sussex County tax map parcel number 530-10.00-39.00.
Glad Jamie's here. She's got a question for you. Reading through it, so it represents RPC. RPC is just an overlay. But they wanted R3. Is there a way to approve it? Because the resolution doesn't say R3. And that, kind of like the MOU thing, it concerns me a little bit. Is there a way to, is verbally enough, like, hey, we're gonna make a motion to pass? I'm trying, I need your guidance on this.
Sure. This is a little different because it's not, you're trying to rezone the property.
Right.
What you're looking at is if we were to bring this property into the town, there's a growth map. And Ms. Todd and I talked about this. She had communicated with the Office of State Planning about that as well. And they treat it as either residential planned community, but then they go into the districts. Ms. Todd, do you want to explain what they expressed to you directly? Because I think you had talked to the folks that were there about that.
Carolyn, myself, and Mr. Phillips, the Planning Commission chairperson, called and spoke to them, and they said when we received the annexation application, they said the first thing we would have to do would be to update this map, and they gave a waiver for Mr. Smoker. He did not have to go through Plus. When we held the meeting, the Office of State Planning, they encouraged RPC and then said when you do the actual annexation to designate it R3. Because in our code, it does list RPC as a zoning district, even though, it has like R1, R2, R3, RPC, blah, blah. But she said when you got to the point where you actually heard the application, then you could say R3.
Okay.
So that was
And
why
if
she.
you'll note, I mean, not to jump ahead, but the resolution that we have on the next item talks about R3.
Right.
So I had that same question. You're not alone in
Okay,
that.
good.
Because RPC is an overlay, but that was because of the state.
Yeah, because it could be R1 and RPC, so that, like,
Yeah.
that didn't, then I was like, ooh, how do we handle this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, you would have the ability, if you wanted to bring this property in later, you would have the ability to designate it as R3. You could make that the requirement.
Okay. Thank you. Sure. One suggestion to mayor and council, obviously it's just a suggestion, so give me a penny for my 2 cents. If we're gonna keep making changes to our land use map, I highly recommend those do these special meetings, because you can get a lot of people out. And if you're trying to have a regular, in my experience, council meeting, you can get bogged down. This is easy because it's a small, not a big area. Yeah, it's an easy one to do, but I'm just saying that I highly recommend that. We're gonna continue to pull in places.
So you're thinking of any kind of like large size, a special meeting for that?
Well, it's a fair question, or a fair point. Whenever you look at your business meetings, and obviously they spend a lot of time with police issues. Some nights we don't have a lot of police issues, some nights we do. But when we get into zoning applications, and you may recall, I know Mr. Donovan and Mr. Moran were on the council last year, we had a slew of conditional use application hearings. This can take a while because you never know if there's going to be a lot of people that want to speak about whether it's an annexation, a conditional use, rezoning, whatever may come before you. So sometimes it is, and I think Ms. Todd, Ms. Didn't we'll look at that pragmatically and go, we're looking a lot here, maybe we ought to move that to a special meeting. So I think staff's aware of that. I will remind council, this is also one for a public hearing and public comments. So when we ask for anybody who wishes to speak about it. But I don't know if there's any other questions you have.
That was it.
Any other questions from council? Any public comment from anybody on this one?
Or the jump, or this property over here, would you like to say something?
No.
You don't have to. You're not compelled to talk, but you can.
I will note, I mentioned this to Ms. Todd earlier, on the resolution that was presented to you on I think it's the 6th, whereas there's a blank for the date for the planning commission meeting. I didn't have that, so she's written that in, I believe, on the actual resolution?
July 31st.
July 30th. So, that's the only change from what was presented to you in the packet. All right, Ms. Dodd?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion for resolution number 2025-02, a resolution to update the growth and annexation map.
Second.
Councilman Honeyfield?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Wilson, I'm yes. I believe that's the motion. Yes. Mr. Donovan? Yes. All in favor? And last one for the public hearing, resolution 2025-03. Application to annex parcel tax ID number 530-10.00-39.00 in Puget Town of Greenwood Town boundary.
Motion made to annex said parcel.
But, and just so that you know, there are two resolutions with this one. It's a kind of a multi-step process. When the application for annexation comes in, the first thing is that Charter's a little clunky on this, but I think I understand why. The first part is that the council can either accept or reject the petition. That doesn't mean you're approving it. Acceptance means you're allowing it to proceed forward. So the first resolution would allow for this annexation to move forward with the annexation procedures. The second resolution that we have, 2025-06, this actually sets forth when the hearing will take place, which is something that we would, if you were inclined to do that, we need to discuss this evening. It gives the right for a qualified resident to object, written comments to be accepted, and then it talks about whether the town is or is not obligated to extend municipal services there. And that's all required under the charter. So it's a two-step process on the resolutions there. But this would not be the public hearing on the annexation. That would be at a later date. This is, I guess a public hearing on the resolution whether you should move forward with the process.
Jamie, did you correct the resolution numbers?
Yeah, I think it's 2025-05, and it was.
Yeah, I don't remember who just said it. I think somebody said 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure we have the right numbers.
Yeah, the first one, the one that you just did for the update the annexation was 04.
Who's 04? For the resolution, then have to be correct.
So anyhow, the first resolution is the one that it is to, the property consists of 21.9 acres. It's contiguous to the town. The applicant proposes to annex the property to the town to access water, sewer, and town amenities and to zone the property R3 high density residential. And then the resolution says that you've considered the petition and direct the town to proceed with the annexation procedures. There's other content of that as well, but that's the summary of it. I don't know if town wishes to hear any public comment on that resolution, but certainly it's good if you wish.
Any comments? Anybody, any comments?
I'll make a motion to proceed.
Is that a motion to accept resolution 2005-05? And you made the second for that? Thank you.
Yes. I believe yes, Mr. Donovan?
Yes.
Ms. Dodd, do we need to sign this, or do you have it?
Carolyn has a clean copy. I don't know if she's given it to you or not. She's got a clean copy here.
And then the next one is 2025-06. This one is the one I was going over earlier. This one sets forth the hearing date and time. It would be held here at the town hall unless you'd like to have it elsewhere. I don't know, Ms. Todd, if we've looked at calendars and timelines for when that could take place. There is some publication advertising requirements, that sort of thing that has to occur. So I think it would have to be at least 30 days out. So I don't know what our dates look like sometime in September.
Currently, they have a special meeting August the 27th at 6:30 for financials, but other than that, just the regular council meetings, all we have scheduled.
And what's the date of the council meeting?
September 10th.
Okay, so we're within 30 days of that date, so I don't think we can do it on that date. I think you want to give it just 30 days, you know.
We go in October.
You want to set it for the October regular meeting?
We let them move for October.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, we do, I haven't sent the paperwork in yet, we do have another special meeting scheduled in September. If you, requested. We have one this month, and one next month, and we're in the budget season.
Yes.
We can squeeze that in.
Yeah, if you want to squeeze, would you like to squeeze into the special meeting or just the regular?
You can squeeze this in under that special meeting, which falls under that stipulation that I would have to add another meeting
September or the,
in the September.
so if the special meeting is September, which is.
We can add it.
That would have been after everything time.
I don't know the date of that.
So it's the week after, it's the week after the 10th, so.
17th.
I think you're best to do October because there's some, I think there's some publication requirements, you want to make sure that you get this done.
Doesn't matter what happens after.
That way we're not, rushing and making, we want to make sure that we have that process.
Special meeting.
Well, we had that one scheduled, but it could fall under the regular council meeting then because the other one's after our meeting.
Right.
So it would just follow under the regular meeting, so we wouldn't have to do anything.
So October the 8th.
We'll just keep going October, the regular meeting on October.
At 6:30.
Yes, yes.
So at this point, we would need a motion to approve resolution 2025-06 for the hearing date of October 8th at 6:30.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
I vote yes. All in favor? We got two. So, real quick, related council members' comment?
Yeah, I did. Can we take a quick recess? Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, we only got a few more things. I don't care. I know.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Yep. So October 8th, that'll be your last one. And I know you're going to want to. I know you're going to want to get up and give a speech, so we'll allow time for that.
Oh, no, sorry. You see that one. Not as much as I'd like to do.
Me too, believe it or not, me too. Yes. Yep, it'll be reposted when we have the actual date.
Repost that again.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so the posting that's out there now, that'll come down.
Yeah, Roger will take it down tomorrow. Yep.
I'm just curious.
Yep. Unless you want to leave it there for. That's right.
Thank you, everybody, for your patience.
What happens best for Tuesday?
I'm old, Carolyn. I don't know what to
Yes, I know, that's why I kept turning it down, turning it down. Comments live to you.
How to turn it on, man. I don't.
Concept, I don't know. I don't even know what that means. Like I said, I don't mind if they're positive, you know, I'm okay with it.
But you can do it like after the fact.
Yes.
You know how to, okay.
Yes. And then we transfer the videos to YouTube anyway.
All it is. Getting older.
Hello, anything, do you know?
I just don't think it's keeping up right now.
Your problems. No, I'm just kidding.
It will be.
Actually, it's less than a year old. All our units are.
No, he just serviced them. Ours is kicking ass over there now. I mean, it still leaks all over the floor, but
It does?
it's the condensation line. I don't know why ours has a condensation line.
And every morning when I get here, the rain gutter's ticking from whatever you got on the radio.
Yeah.
Because every morning I think, where's that ticking? It says it's
No
raining.
matter how often it is.
That's what it said on there a while ago. It said light rain, and now it says rainy days ahead.
At least it didn't rain last night. That's all I care about.
I am there. It's a spiritual experience.
Before you get back to it, finish this up. The next one, Councilmember's comments.
First, I'd like to thank the chief and Lieutenant Thomas and Corporal Tucker for putting on another outstanding national night out last night. It looked like there was a lot of people there. Everybody seemed to enjoy themselves. A lot of people loved that their ice cream truck was there again. So, you know, it was a good time for the community and the outside community. So you guys did an outstanding job. As always, can't wait to see how big we can get next year. And the other one is September 2nd. Everybody remembers the fire hall. The awesome sticky situation will be there for the pizza and barbecue. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Your shirt went quick.
16 minutes. From the time you open the door till they roll home. 16 minutes.
Did you get the cheese?
Got the cheese. Tragedy avoided.
There was a cheese situation, but did we get the cheese? Sir?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anybody else for your comments? Anything else for your comments? Mr. Massey, any comments? Well, that's the next one. So we move this down to the reading of correspondence. So Mr. Massey.
This is a correspondence from a resident, constituent. So, Mr. Massey, I'm out of town, where I would definitely be attending the meeting, so I would appreciate if you could read this letter at the meeting. As I watched the last meeting, I listened to you read a letter from someone, and I did not catch the name, but I wish I could speak to them. I will keep this letter short, but to the point. I would like council to ask themselves a few things.
Since January, when the new council was elected, what has been accomplished? What I see are agendas full of things, and after the meeting, the same things can be carried to the next agenda because nothing is settled. The only items that should ever be tabled are due to lack of information to make an informed decision. In that case, also, I see agendas are posted 7 days in advance, which is plenty of time for any council member to ask for information on any upcoming agenda item in order to make a decision at the meeting. We have heard the repeated statement that the town is broke, and that has been disproven month after month, yet the council still tries to gaslight that subject. It appears that the council may actually want the town to be broke, and they put a question mark, so that's why I referred like that. Next bullet point, I see huge discord between staff, not only amongst themselves, but between some members of the council and the town manager. Fix it, all capital letters. Lastly, I see a very unorganized meeting every month, and if the mayor cannot control the meeting, it is your job as vice mayor to step up and get it back in control. The highlight of the last meeting was seeing Mr. Moran get back on council. I think if he and you work together, we can see things happen as the two of you seem to get what the council is supposed to do. I conclude with this statement: the town of Greenwood should get a petition for a vote of no confidence in Brandon Cessna, the mayor. When I get back in town, I may make that my project. I'm sure he's not a bad person. The job is not for him. Hope to see you at the next meeting. Thank you, Stan Miller. Oh, Mr. Miller, I have not met you personally, but I hope we did a better job tonight because it seemed we made some great progress. I really hope that you see that.
Okay. That concludes that. We're going to move to executive session. So the room is 6:11.